And as I promised everyone, thank you, Beverly. As I promised everyone, at the end of this session, I'm going to share the recording and any other content that comes up in the conversations that can be beneficial to you. And towards that end, if you have any questions, jump in the chat box. Ask me any question in the chat box. I'll put it right here in front of me. It's right here in front of me so I can see it. Sometimes it gets in the way. It blocks my view, but I'll get rid of this because I don't need that here. Put the chat right here. Now I can speak to you directly, softly, and I can pay attention to the conversation. So, hey, Beverly, great question. Can you do campaigns on LinkedIn? Let's get a little further in the conversation and I'll come back to you with that. I'd like to know if you're talking about ad campaigns or something different, but we'll talk about that as we move forward. Fair enough? So who am I? Some of you know who I am. Most of you on here probably don't know who I am, but I'm Sandler sales trained. I'm a Dale Carnegie professional, trained by a great Dale Carnegie coach. I'm DDI leadership trained. I'm a facilitator for leadership training. I'm a certified social media strategist. I'm a certified career coach. I'm a Toastmaster. I'm a practicing Toastmaster. And I've been around a little bit. I've learned a lot about business. I've learned a lot about marketing. I've learned a lot about sales, people, networking, engagement. And so I bring all of that to the table in my training and strategy and consulting of using LinkedIn as a business tool, which this conversation is all about LinkedIn as a business tool. I also am the author of 2 books on Amazon, a bunch of ebooks, 630 YouTube videos, 5,200. I went and looked a few minutes ago, 5,200 plus Quora answers, over 8 million views of my Quora answers on LinkedIn. And use the chat. Does anybody want to take a guess what kinds of content I answer questions on Quora? Use the chat box. Anybody want to take a guess? What do I answer questions about on Quora? Fiona got it nailed. Jennifer's guessing. My joke used to be, not monetizing, Beverly. That's monetizing LinkedIn is a side effect of doing it right. Listen to those words, a side effect of doing it right. We're going to talk about that. LinkedIn is the world's largest professional networking site. Here's some stats you may or may not have heard of before. 720 plus million LinkedIn members, 2 new members every second. Yesterday I looked at it and the number was 2.3 new members every second. And that 0.3 is a huge number every second. And 56 million companies represented on LinkedIn in some way or another. 111,000 schools represented on LinkedIn. Universities, colleges, community colleges, even high schools are represented in some way or another on LinkedIn. Now, this number is a little disturbing if you look at it just on its face value. I want to put the word only. 25% of all LinkedIn members get on LinkedIn at least every other week. Every other week, only 25% get on. Now, the earlier number of that is a year ago or a year and a half ago, that number was 25% only got on once a month. 25% got on once a month. So it's double. So it's twice the activity. And I'm okay with that activity because that means 25% of my LinkedIn network is going to see me at least every other week. And I'm good with that. Okay. LinkedIn profiles, here's the other big number. LinkedIn profiles are highly indexed by Google. I can't publish it anymore because it's already 4 years old. But 4 years ago, I'm looking for a new number. 4 years ago, 2016, first quarter, 45 billion. Let me repeat, 45 billion LinkedIn profile views. That's a huge number of profiles that are getting eyeballs on them. I want to be a part of that specifically because 4 years ago, we didn't have 720 million people. 4 years ago, we didn't have 25% of getting on there every other week. There's a whole lot more profile viewing going on now. So this is why I want people to look at using LinkedIn as a business tool because of these types of numbers. Parth, I'll get to your question in one moment. So you got to look at LinkedIn and using it as a business tool. And what are you trying to achieve? You're trying to achieve creating connections with your influencers and your target audience. And you got to be clear about who your influencers are and who your target audience is. Because if you connect with your influencers the right way, you can get introduced to your target audience. And when you do that the right way, it creates a portal or an opportunity to have new business conversations. To achieve your goals, you need to do relevant engagement and sharing of relevant content on LinkedIn. So you build your professional brand. We build our brand, we build our reputation based on what we do, what we say, and what we engage on. Our words are a huge part of our professional brand. And you have to think about that when you're using LinkedIn. LinkedIn search is a powerful tool that most people don't know how to use effectively. When you learn how to use LinkedIn search the right way, you can create great value. Sales Navigator, for those who are serious about prospecting, that's the tool to be using. By the way, for those who have not used Sales Navigator, it's a secondary interface. You have your LinkedIn interface and you have your Sales Navigator interface. And the Sales Navigator, first of all, has 23 search filters for individuals called leads in Sales Navigator. You only have 13 search filters for LinkedIn members in LinkedIn. And secondly, Sales Navigator has 13 search filters for accounts / companies, and LinkedIn only has 5 and really only 3. Huge value add to go to Sales Navigator if you are a serious prospector. I don't cold call at all. I refuse to cold call. Predominantly, not because I'm afraid of doing it. I've done my share of cold calling, and I'll do it again if there's a purpose in doing it, but I don't need to. I don't need to. I'm not trying to be arrogant or pompous here, but I've found a better way to get to my target audience. And that better way includes using LinkedIn to find out who do I know that knows the people that I want to know. We can talk about that a little bit. Parf says, I was trying to find an answer that whether it's a great idea to endorse some skills of both. Yeah, relevance, absolutely. If someone's relevant to you, then and you see some value and giving them a kudos with an endorsement, give them that endorsement, give them that kudos. So you've got to measure your value, measure the value you're getting from the tactics that you use on LinkedIn. Measure the value you're getting from the investment you're making of time and now dollars into using LinkedIn. One of the ways to measure, one of the KPIs, key performance indicators that I recommend that you pay attention to, you don't get overly worried about it, is what's called your social selling index. Now, your social selling index is made up of 4 numbers. The first one down here, you'll see establish your professional brand. This is how well is your LinkedIn profile built? Is it keyword rich? Is the content in lots of different ways relevant and tied all together? Is it, are you using all the different areas of your LinkedIn profile? There's 11 key areas. Are you using all of those different areas to tell the story of who you are and what you do, focused on your target audience? Is it, are you sharing content in your LinkedIn profile that is distracting or not relevant? Example of distracting is way back in the day, I used to drive a trash truck in the morning. In the afternoon, I picked up caskets. Excuse me, other way around. I drove a trash truck in the morning. In the afternoon, I delivered caskets. True story, I did this for the same company. That's not on my LinkedIn profile. I spent 35 years in the IT industry. For the most part, that's not on my profile. Why? Because it's not relevant to who I am today. So when you build your profile, this measure here of establishing your professional brand, LinkedIn's algorithms, however they work pretty good because I've made adjustments and seen that number go up and down. It's a good measure. The second number is finding the right people. So in your profile, you're making a statement, hopefully, as to who you are and what you do. You're using keywords that are highly relevant to a particular audience. Are you connecting with that audience? Or are the people you're connecting with so diverse that the algorithms goes, I don't think you're focused. Now, don't misunderstand me. I've got a huge LinkedIn network, but the most of the people that I reach out to invite or to connect with are highly relevant to who I am and what I do. And now also I'm a career coach, so I get a lot of job seekers, unemployed folks, and people in lots of different industries that I connect with. And so that pushes my number down a little bit. I can't jeopardize the value of helping others if by trying to push that number up. I need to help others along the way. The third number is engage with insights. You're saying that this is who you are and what you're all about. You're connecting with this type of people. Is the content and your engagement relevant to all of that? The algorithm looks at that. And so that number is one of the hardest to move up the hill, but you need to look at where you are today and what can you do to impact that number. And it's your actions and the content and the engagement that's relevant to your target audience. If you start doing that appropriately and consistently, then you can impact that KPI. The last number is building relationships. This is all about how broad and deep are you connecting? It's one thing for you to be connected with one or two people in an organization that you want to do business with, or you are doing business with. It's something else to have 10 connections in that organization. And it's even greater for you to have those 10 connections and have 10 or 20 other connections that know those 10. So when your network gets all interwoven, that's building relationships measure that LinkedIn looks at, and that's much richer than just having one connection in the company that you do business with. Years ago, there was a thing called LinkedIn Labs. And they would draw a graphical image and show you all the people you were connected with and how they were all interconnected. And I looked at a lot of LinkedIn Lab images of these networks, and a lot of them were very sparse. The lines were very clear. There were lines here and there. The ones that were the more successful, the lines were all over the place. I mean, just a huge, huge spider web. And that is a rich way to connect. Some of the other, and by the way, feel free to ask any questions in the chat box. And if you have a question that I don't understand, I'll unmute you and let you jump in. Here's another measure, another set of measures. It's on your dashboard on your LinkedIn profile. That is how many people viewed your profile in the last 90 days. That number is 90 days of profile views. Article views, that number is representative of one particular article, usually the last article that you shared. And search appearances is how many times did you show up when someone was searching. And then if you click on those numbers, profile views will take you in and give you some insights of who the people are that connected with you. And if you're not paying for LinkedIn, you can see the last 5 people. If you're paying for LinkedIn Premium, you can see the last 90 days. And it can be very informative to see who was looking at you, or the right people looking at me. And they're not always the right people, but are the right people in there? Search appearances can, if you drill into that, it'll tell you, what companies they work for, what regions they're in, what titles they have. And then they'll also tell you what words that they use to find you. So if you look at that and you realize the wrong people are looking at you, then look at what keywords they're finding you for. Then go look at your LinkedIn profile and ask yourself, what words do I have in my profile? Maybe you need to fix that. Beverly asks, what's the advantage of a paid account versus free? If you are, the primary advantage is if you are seriously prospecting, then I encourage you to consider Sales Navigator. And in my training programs, I teach Sales Navigator as a business tool. You could also justify paying for LinkedIn if you're just after LinkedIn Learning, because LinkedIn Learning is also very rich in content. It's a great way to continuously develop yourself with professional courses. If you could pay for LinkedIn Premium, in LinkedIn Premium, one of the primary advantages you get from that, besides getting LinkedIn Learning, the other advantage you get is unlimited search results. So when you do search, if you're serious about prospecting, when you do search, if you're not paying for LinkedIn, you're going to get shut down with the commercial use limit. So that after X number of profile views, it won't let you build a search string of search results any bigger than 3 people. That refreshes the first of every month. Hope that answers that question, Beverly. Another measure or KPI I look at is the size of your LinkedIn network. Now, I have a huge LinkedIn network. Most people shouldn't have a network that big unless they're going to follow my guidance that I teach in my courses about how to engage with your network. Every single connection I've engaged with at least once. Every single connection I've engaged with in a significant way, focus on that person at least once. The other thing I look at is followers. I have 20,000, actually it's 20,500 right now followers. And that's important to me. It may not be important to you, but LinkedIn is my sandbox, my playhouse. So I want people to follow me there. I want people to be interested in what I share. I want people to discover what I share. I want people to consume what I share. I want people to learn and grow from what I share. So I work more to build my followers than I do to build my connections. Here's the other big number. How many business conversations have you had this week as a result of your LinkedIn activities? That's a huge KPI right there. It's the biggest, most important one there. How many business conversations have you had because of your activities on LinkedIn? These are really important to look at. Not any one of them by themselves is critical, except for maybe how many business conversations have I had. But I look at these KPIs on a regular basis and it helps me determine, am I doing it right? It helps me help my students and my clients understand, are they doing it right? Is there something that you could do better? So I'm a huge advocate for getting focused and or just keep throwing spaghetti at the wall. And I'd rather get focused. I want to get focused on my target audience, and everyone on LinkedIn is not my target audience. Okay. Ross asked, where do you see these numbers on LinkedIn? I'll put that in the information, Ross. Share SSI URL. I'll put that in the email to you. The other numbers you can see on your LinkedIn profile down under dashboard. So if you go to your LinkedIn profile, scroll down on dashboard, you'll see profile views, post activity, and search. And you can see your size of your LinkedIn network under my network, and you can see your number of followers under your activity. So I might just do all those, all KPIs. I'll put all those together in an email for you. So, everyone is not your target audience in life, in business, career, not everyone, okay? This applies to LinkedIn as well. Every LinkedIn member is not your target audience. You've got to have clarity. You've got to have clarity on who your target audience is. And when you have clarity, now you know who you're speaking to. Now you know who you need to connect to. Now you know who you should be engaging with. I drive it down to this. You know who is the human in the role, in the company, in the industry, in the region. Who's the human that's important to me in my business? Now, additionally, you also want to have clarity on who are the influencers. Who are the people who can introduce you to your target audience? It's critical to understand that. Your brand is built all around and through the words that you use on LinkedIn. So once you're clear about who your target audience is, you got to get clear on the keywords or phrases that your target audience uses when they're thinking and or discussing and or seeking what you do. So when you get clear on those keywords, then you can really have a much greater opportunity to produce the right type of messaging through your profile, as well as through your content. So you'll get these words, you'll figure them out. You might use tools like Google Trends to validate whether they're the right words. You might do Go look at your link, your target audience, and look at their websites, look at their messaging, see what they're talking about, see what's important to them. You might also listen to what people say, Teddy, and hear the words they use and discover what words are important to them, and then use those words again throughout your profile, your content, your comments, your company pages, your group posts, et cetera, et cetera. When you focus your keywords on your target audience, using words that are important to them, you'll be far greater in business. So a professional LinkedIn profile is important. And I use the phrase professional because too often I look at profiles, they're not professional. Coached a lady yesterday who, an executive for a Fortune 50 company, and she's transitioning out of this organization. And she's already a part of 3 national boards for this 3 huge organization. And she has aspirations to get on 2 other huge boards. Great lady, smart woman. I mean, oh my God, I was so glad to meet her. And we're looking at her LinkedIn profile, and she has a lot of work that needs to be done on her profile. And one of them was that she had her title, one of her keywords in her actual title, she'd spelt incorrectly. She said, Teddy, I've had this up here for 5 years and nobody's ever mentioned it to me before. Think about that. I had another guy years ago who spelt the name of his company wrong. Simple mistake. I did the same thing years ago when I started Burriss Consulting. I misspelled consulting and filed it with the federal government. And they filed it all right, just like I asked them to. And then it cost me $125 to fix it. Actually, I think it cost $25. Professional profile is important, and you do that by being very careful about spelling and grammar. Look, if you want to find out what I'm talking about, go do a LinkedIn search for Manger or do a LinkedIn search for pubic relations. And you got to remember, a professional LinkedIn profile is not a resume. It's a brochure. It's a brochure. So when you can understand what you need to put on your LinkedIn profile, when you can understand who you're talking to and what words you're looking for, then you can build a professional LinkedIn profile. And again, these are the kinds of things that I help people when in my programs and in my coaching and training. Speaking clearly to your target audience. Beverly asks, is there a limit on how many keywords to use per post? Yes. Now, I'm not talking about hashtags, Beverly. That's a whole nother conversation. But you want to write like a human, and humans don't pack every sentence they have with keywords. Humans speak like humans. So you'll grab the right keywords in each sentence. You'll use the right keywords in each paragraph. You'll use the right keywords throughout your profile. But you got to remember, this is a human talking to another human. Great question. Thanks for asking that. So when you're building your LinkedIn profile, you've got to be very purposeful about minimizing distractions. I see this all the time. People go, but I want them to know that I used to milk cows in Minnesota. I want them to know that I used to run a business that's nothing like the one I have now. I want them to know all this about me. And that's not important. If you look at a brochure for a Ford F-150, the 2021 model, okay, the Ford F-150 XLT 2021 model, it's all about that model. It's not about previous models. It might speak a little bit about the history of Ford in its delivery of absolutely fabulous vehicles. And please don't chat to me and tell me you're a Chevy guy. I'm joking. But even with the Maserati and the brand new Porsches that are out there, you look at those brochures, they're about this year's model. And that's important to think about. There's very little distracting information on there. But you also, in a professional LinkedIn profile, show people that you're human. So you'll show your volunteer. You'll show your community. You'll show your development as a professional in life that develops you up to who you are today. And you got to understand what are the key sections of a LinkedIn profile that you should populate to be able to tell those stories. A profile picture is vital. If you have a LinkedIn profile and it does not have a picture of you, you're basically telling the viewers that you're not approachable. Furthermore, if your LinkedIn profile and you have your old company's email address, website, phone number, and your contact information, you're absolutely clearly telling people you don't want to connect or have a conversation. So you need to look at those things. These are huge failures I see every day. Bad contact information and no picture. Or they use a company logo, or they have a picture with someone's arm around them and they cropped it out. So just not a professional presence. And the last statement in this is telling your target audience what you do for them is the most important thing you do, and far more important than pitching your products, pitching your company, and pitching your services. Tell the viewer what you do for them. Again, any questions, drop it in chat and I'll answer it. So here's the other part of LinkedIn. So you're building your profile. The next thing you need to do is start building your network. I have this philosophy that is true to me, and I'm blessed because of it, that my network is in fact my most important asset in life. Now, don't misunderstand me. My relationships with my family, my religious beliefs, my moral beliefs, and all that, those aren't assets. That's character, okay, in lots of ways. My network, which includes my LinkedIn network, includes 6,000 names that I know are still alive, contact information in my cell phone, includes my Facebook, my Twitter, my Instagram, my YouTube, my Quora, my Snapchat, my TikTok, my Clubhouse, includes everyone that showed up here today. This is my network. All of this, the sum of all these people is my most important asset in life. So if you look at it from the context of being an asset, what should you do with it? So think of it in the context of an asset. What should you do with it? Protect it, nurture it, grow it, care for it, give to it, give it away. This is one asset you can give away that creates rewards when you give it away. But as you're growing your LinkedIn network, you want to be very purposeful and focus on your target audience and their influencers. You want to focus on connecting with your target audience and their influencers. However, along the way, you also want to be connecting with people you can help. I'm not looking for people I can help, but I'm willing to accept an invite from someone who needs my help. I'm willing to accept an introduction from somebody. Actually, any one of you or anybody in my network says, hey, Teddy, I met this guy named Bill. Would you give him a few minutes? I am never going to turn down that request. I'm going to make it purposeful. I'm going to manage it in the best possible way, but I'm going to do something to help my network, because the moment I help someone in a meaningful way, they're more likely to want to help me later. And by the way, you do this with no expectations. This is called networking for mutual benefit. I know the dude that wrote the book. It's on Amazon.com. Read it. It's one of my books. You do the same philosophy on LinkedIn. Purposeful networking creates real value. Purposeful networking is a style that I have adopted / developed, and I teach people to do in my courses. Find people you want to connect with and look for ways to get introduced to them. Don't send an invite to someone who doesn't know you any more than Adam's house cat, whoever that is. Okay. Ask your network to introduce you to the people you want to connect with. Now, if you don't have that ability, another tactic is to bump into them. So if I want to connect with someone, let's say I want to connect with Jordan or Eva or Steve or Tom. If I want to connect with Adriana, I'm not going to send them an invite. I might now, because now they know who I am. But if they don't know who I am, I'm going to look further. If I can't find someone to introduce me, I'm looking to see if they have any content that I can engage on. Maybe they have a LinkedIn post, a LinkedIn article, a video. Maybe they're in a group that I can engage with them in a group. Maybe they're doing something on YouTube or Twitter or Instagram. Bump into them on social media, and then they'll know who you are. By the way, if you want to bump into them and they care about who you are, bump into them in a meaningful way. The most important thing you can do for purposeful networking is to immediately engage. There's lots of ways to engage. And in my courses, I teach you how to engage effectively, how to engage relevantly, how to engage with some meaningful way that pulls or creates the best opportunity to pull your connection, the right connection, into a conversation. Now, here's my prop that I used this morning in this morning session. Don't do this. Don't collect a big old bucket of LinkedIn connections and do nothing with it. That's horrible. Do something with it. And remember this, your network doesn't care about you until they know you care about them. Purposeful networking. Any other questions? Drop them in chat. I'm going to keep moving. We're doing good. So social engagement and social sharing is where the magic hits the road. Let me draw this picture for you. So you get best up, you put your best shirt on, you make sure it looks good. Some of you might put a tie and a jacket on. You wear your best looking shoes and best looking slacks. And some of the women on here might wear, get dressed up a little differently than us men, but you'll get dressed to look good. This is synonymous to building a professional LinkedIn profile. You build a LinkedIn profile so it looks good. Then the second thing you do in this whole journey of using LinkedIn as a business tool, here's the analogy. You go to networking events. You walk into a room where there's 250 people. 75% of the people in the room know you. They know about you. They know what you're all about. They know what you can do. 25% of them haven't met you yet. Think about this. You look good and you walk into a room full of people who are relevant to you. 75% of them know you. 25% of them are waiting to meet you or could benefit by meeting you. That's networking. So you walk into this event. Let me see if I can pull this off my little screen. You walk into this event looking good, full of people, and you do this. You stand beside the biscuit bar and you do nothing. You stand beside the hors d'oeuvres and you do nothing. Or equally as bad, I think equally as bad, you go hang out with your buddies, gnawing on biscuits and drinking great knee-high. How does that help you grow? If you're going to build a decent LinkedIn profile, professional LinkedIn profile, you're going to build a highly relevant LinkedIn network full of your influencers and your target audience and do nothing, you might as well not use LinkedIn. For the most part, you might as well just go back to bed. What you need to do is get into conversations. That's what you need to do. It's called social engagement. What you need to do is you need to find your target audience and find out what conversations are going on and get into those conversations with your target audience, with your influencers. Don't be that guy who all they do is hand out brochures and flyers all day long. Been there. Been to networking events before where two young women working for a restaurant walk in. Every week they'd walk in and their boss said, hand out 150 business cards. They'd hand out 150 business cards and then they would leave. Or don't be that lady, and I'm not trying to pick on the women in the group here, but this is the two examples I have. Don't be that lady who walks up behind someone and slides a brochure into their hand. The analogy for social media is all you're doing is connecting and getting people's contact information. The analogy on social media is all you're doing is connecting and you're what I refer to as barfing out your corporate content. The people who all they do is barf out their corporate content. Think about it for a minute. How soon are you going to start ignoring them? Pretty quickly. What you want to do is find a way to get into conversations with your target audience. I'm a 90-10 guy. 90% of the time, I'm going to share and engage with people not about Teddy, and 10% of the time, I'm going to tell you about Teddy. 90% of the time, if I'm giving you ideas and engaging in your conversation, would you be open 1 time out of 10 if I say something about Teddy? Maybe. But get into conversations with your target audience and their influencers. That's much richer. than barfing all over your network. And follow Dale Carnegie's principle. Make the conversation all about the other person. These are critical. These are a lot of, all of this is the kind of stuff I teach people in my courses, that I really want you to adopt these ideas. And last point here is when you show up at a networking event, you're a human being. There's nothing perfect about you. You're a human being. You're trying your best. Same thing on LinkedIn. Try your best. Show that you're a human being. Don't act like a robot. One of the analogies there is I don't promote the use of automation on LinkedIn. Human to human engagement is how we make this work. A meaningful comment on someone's post, a relevant post, a target audience's post, an influencer's post, at the very least, a post that's relevant to all of them. A meaningful comment is 6 words or more. 6 words or more. Happy birthday is not a meaningful comment. Congratulations on the job is not a meaningful comment. Congratulations on the job. I knew this day was coming. I am so proud of you and excited for you. That's a meaningful comment. Took a little bit longer to write, but it's worth a whole lot more. Sharing content that is relevant to your target audience. I call it TRUE, TRUHE, transparent, relevant, useful, honest, and engaging. Sharing content that is true to your target audience is the way to build a relevant brand. Because every time you show up, you're giving them something that they can use, giving them something that's relevant and honest and engaging for them. One of my Teddy edicts that I follow and subscribe to is never do, say, or engage in ways that you don't want to be seen, heard, or perceived of in life. That's in real life. That's LinkedIn. It's also Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Quora, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok. Never do, say, or engage in ways you don't want to be seen, heard, or perceived of in life. That's why I wore a clean shirt for you today. Also, the other thing that I want you to understand is never touch any content that could diminish your brand. Even if your intent is to say this is horrible, even if your intent is to call it out for what it is, don't touch it. You don't want to be associated with it. If you see a piece of content that you think is something that shouldn't be on LinkedIn or Facebook or Twitter or YouTube or what, call out the individual privately. By the way, if you ever see me share a piece of content that I shouldn't do, I beg you to call me and ask me what the heck is my problem. Don't do it publicly, do it privately. The last thing, human to human engagement. Minimize the use of the canned responses, canned comments, canned messages. It takes away from who you are as a human. I got to jump into Q&A. We've got, about 15 minutes left, and I want to answer questions for you. So I'd love for you to ask me questions. But before we jump into Q&A, I just want to share with you a special offer. I have a 3-part webinar. The first 2 parts are a group webinar that I'm going to do on the 4th Wednesday of each month. And in that, each one of them is an hour long. We'll talk about developing your target audience, finding out who their influences are, choosing the right words for your messaging. Over these 2 sessions, we'll talk about building your LinkedIn profile. We'll get deeper into 11 sections you need to use and how you should use them. We'll talk about powerful best practices for LinkedIn search. I'll show you how to use the search tools, how to use saved search. We'll talk about best practices for social conversations and social sharing. And where relevant, appropriate, we'll get into social listening or LinkedIn and Sales Navigator for those who want to have that. So those 2 sessions are rich with content. And then everybody who shows up gets the ebooks, building a professional LinkedIn profile, building a LinkedIn network, building a professional brand, and 20 questions about LinkedIn and the answers you need. But even better than that, I'm going to make available to everyone who signs up for this a 1-hour individual one-on-one coaching. So it's 3 hours, 2 hours of group coaching and 1 hour of one-on-one coaching for everyone who shows up. It's my course called Master LinkedIn as a Business Tool. And it's priced for everyone who shows up here today. I'm going to give you a 1/3 off so that it's more easier for you to get in. And it's a powerful program. I promise you value. promise you great value in this course. So I encourage you to think about it. I'll send the link to it in the messaging, and I'd love for you to show up because my goal is to help you through this program. So at this point, questions. So I'm going to bring the chat box over here. If you drop your LinkedIn profile into the chat, when I answer your question, I can use your LinkedIn profile. So let me do LinkedIn. Let me do full screen. Let me go back to my chat. My chat go. Let me unfull screen to get my chat back. Oh, I lost my chat. Where's my chat? I had a question. I want to make sure I get to it. Here we go. So Scott asked, and Scott gave me his profile. Scott asked, can you give a high-level overview about the relationship between the owner's company profile and the personal profile? I've heard to connect with people on the personal level. Is this correct? Should you share posts as a company or person? So Scott, great question. I mean, LinkedIn is a human-to-human networking site. So it's really first and foremost about you as a human connecting with other humans. But beyond that, you know, LinkedIn company page can be very beneficial. You get 215 followers on this. This can be a great place. You're not using it yet. And the reason I know you're not using it yet, because it goes straight to about, it didn't go to home. If it went to home, I'd see you had some posts that you don't have. So company pages can be useful, and you can invite people, and you can get other people in the company to invite people to follow your company page. It can be another channel, but the most important channel is the human to human between Scott and Scott's most important viewers, target audience, and influencers. So great question. Hope that answers that question for you. Yeah, you should share. Your company page should be a source of useful content. Note those words, a source of useful content. It should not be a bucket of corporate content that you're barfing all over people. This is what most people do on company pages. It's all about them. Don't do that. Focus on who these 215 followers are and find out what they're looking for and give them what they're looking for. Let's see, Mr. Gleason, Michael popped up in here. Michael says, I'm new to Sales Navigator. The next session, will you go into it more? Now, this is the one-time session. I'll go into it more in the fee-based sessions, Mike. So if you sign up for the fee-based sessions, then we'll talk about Sales Navigator, either during the second session of you get 3, or in your one-on-one session, we'll talk about Sales Navigator. I love Sales Navigator. I use it all the time. It's an important part of my business. I use it very deliberately for prospecting and for social listening, and social for one-on-one direct engagement. So yeah, I will talk about that more in the fee-based program. Rolf says, when someone sends me a connection request, you don't know who they are and choose not to connect, is there a polite way to communicate this thought other than just ignoring them? Oh, Ross, why do we need to be polite? I'm joking, buddy. You know I am. So Ross, I have a very deliberate style that I teach in my courses about how to respond back to them. And when you do respond back to them, I thank them. I say, thank you very much for the invite. I really appreciate it. I would hope you will follow me here. When in the moment I say, I hope you will follow me here, I'm saying to you, I'm not going to connect. But that's one of the reasons why I was able to build a huge following. You know, I've got 20,600 followers now. I went up another 40 today, 20,600 followers versus 14,000 some odd connections. So I can be polite about it, buddy. And that's basically what I'll do. I invite them to follow me. See, Jennifer says, every time I get on LinkedIn, there are multiple requests from people trying to sell me something. Yup. Should I accept every connection? No, Jennifer. Should I ignore requests from people trying to sell me something that I'm definitely not going to buy? This is awesome. Yes, Jennifer. If someone sends you an invite, you're not a LinkedIn consultant, so you're not trying to get everybody on LinkedIn to follow you. I would love to have 720 million followers. I know it's never going to happen, but I want to keep growing my followers because they're playing in my sandbox. But this is not your world. So I don't think you need to have everybody follow you. So if someone's trying to sell you something, or if they're in another country, they're in another industry, you could just simply hit the ignore button. You don't have to be polite. And I'm gonna go back to what I said with Ross. You don't always need to be polite. You could just simply hit the ignore button. They're not gonna know you hit the ignore button. All they are gonna know is you didn't accept. Now, furthermore, Jennifer, if you get in-mails from people who are trying to pitch you something, which happens a lot, then you can just hit the not interested button. And basically what you're telling on LinkedIn is, I don't want to hear from this guy anymore. So there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, my wife has taught me after years, I don't need to answer the doorbell every time it rings. Now, my daughters get a little upset about that, but I don't need to answer the doorbell every time it rings. I've never done that to my daughters. So great question. I would ignore all the in-mails that are irrelevant to you. I would ignore all of the invites that you get that are irrelevant to you. If you want to be polite, I gave Ross an idea. Just ask them to follow you. So what other questions do you folks have? I want to make this as useful to you as possible. I think I've answered all the questions so far, but hit me up with other ones, or, raise your hand and I will unmute you. I think you can raise your hand. Yeah, raise your hand. I'll unmute you and let you ask me directly. Well, without any more questions, here we go. Scott, can you provide any examples of your clients that have used LinkedIn to prospect B2B? So Ross, Scott, great question. My primary focus is B2B. I've done work with, I've got Scott, but I don't have Scott's last name. Did you give me your LinkedIn profile, Scott? There you are. Yeah, and you and I are connected. So, training, B2B training. I do a lot of work with manufacturing, consulting. I do a lot of work with banking, insurance. I've done work with hospitals and universities. I've done work with financial planners. There's no real limit. The clients that I do work with, predominantly B2B, but I do B2C work as well. Interestingly, I've done work with a minister. I taught a minister how to use LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube, and she's freaking loving the engagement that she's creating today across all three of those platforms. That was a fun job to do. And also the newest one was the lady who's retiring and wants to have a board position. But for me, in a B2B world, it's all about this. Anybody who has a goal to create a presence online, anybody has a goal to connect with their target audience and their most important viewers, their influencers, anybody has a goal to build a brand with their target audience through LinkedIn, this is powerful. You've got to use this in a very deliberate way. And that's the sum of all of it. I mean, again, it's across all industries. I've done electrical engineering. I've done landscapers. That's B2B. I've done facility management. I've done security companies. I've done work with police departments. I've done work with the city economic development groups. You name it. It's across all industries. But the goal was to build a presence, to build a network, and to build a reputation through the use of LinkedIn. So Jennifer asked, I'm trying to share content that would be helpful for others, but people ignore it and don't like it. Oh, well, poo on them. How many posts should I do before I draw conclusions based on what posts and videos work and which ones don't? Jennifer, that's a great question. There's no easy answer to that. What I've created a practice for me. So see these little sticky notes? I'm down to 4. I'm getting there, Teddy. Every time someone asks me a question, and I'll keep this chat and go through this chat, and I got notes already. Every time I hear a question, that becomes a piece of content. Every time someone says to me, Teddy, LinkedIn's really tough to do. Well, what I wrote down is this: it's drudgery because you've not practiced it. That's an article I'm going to write. So I don't have a content calendar that I follow for me as a solopreneur or, small business. I listen to what people say to me, and that becomes what I write. That becomes my videos. It becomes my articles. It becomes my LinkedIn articles, my YouTube, my blog post. And so by thinking that way, paying attention to what you all ask me and what my target audience and my clients ask me, that gives me the better opportunity to write stuff that people will like and not ignore. It's not the whole answer, Jennifer, but it's a big part of the answer. Making sure I write what they're interested in, not what I think they're interested in. And this is hard to do, Jennifer. It took me years to develop this skill set of listening to what you guys ask me. So your question might become another blog post. And by the way, I tell you that up front, the questions I hear becomes my articles, videos, and blog posts. So great question. But you do need to pay attention. You can look at, don't get anal about this. If you get a post that gets 50 likes or 50 comments, that doesn't mean it's the most important thing. It just means it got seen by enough people that they liked it. What's more important is who liked it. What's more important is who engaged on it. What's more important is how did they engage on it, not just that it quote unquote went viral. So 5 minutes left. If you any other questions, I'll be glad to answer them. Otherwise, I really appreciate you coming today. I appreciate you letting me share. I hope you'll take me up on this offer to join my Master LinkedIn as a Business Tool course. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me, message me on LinkedIn. If we're not connected, you feel free to send me an invite to connect. And I absolutely appreciate you spending time with me from 4 to 5 o'clock. Jennifer says, do you reach out to people via messaging, or do you try to contact them outside of LinkedIn via email? Jennifer, I reach out to people that I'm connected with on LinkedIn and beyond in the most appropriate way for them. Looking for Jennifer, I had her up here. I reach out to people on LinkedIn in the most appropriate way for them. And what that means is it might be LinkedIn messaging. Now, I'll tell you, I probably wouldn't send you a LinkedIn message, Jennifer, because you're not on LinkedIn right now, or you're not telling me you're on it. You've turned off your notification there. So what I might do, and I won't show your contact information publicly, but I might call you. I might email you. I might text message you. But, as I'm developing my relationships with my prospects, I'm going to pay attention to the best way to engage with them. And so it's not always going to be LinkedIn messaging. Matter of fact, that's going to often be the least way for me to do it. If I am going to use LinkedIn messaging in my course, I'll teach you how to do a video message and an audio message through your cell phone. So LinkedIn video message, LinkedIn audio message. Most people don't know how to do those. So if I'm going to do a message to you, I'm going to do it that way. But ideally, I'm going to call you, invite you to a Zoom call, email your business, text message you, and LinkedIn message is the last thing I'll do. Hope that helps. All right, folks. I really appreciate you showing up. Thank you very much. I'm going to stop sharing, put Teddy on the big screen, and I'm going to stop recording.